I've been making music video in the style of. On the other hand, by a different definition of creativity, perhaps by the one you've been working to, they'd have quite a lot to say. So I think from my point of view, that's, in a way, that's the point of having the word creativity in there and having creative in there. That it's actually more than just an exercise to prove theory, which is often what people see practical work as. Simply trotting something out and say, there you are, I've ticked that box, I've done it. But an opportunity to play around with things within a context that still says, actually, I've still got to make a product for an audience. I can't just make something that nobody would watch except for me, which is different, again, from what you might produce, I don't know, say on an expressive arts course or for a bit of abstract painting, which... I think the kinds of things produced in media studies, or that we ask people to produce, tend to be popular, in its broadest sense, texts.
But then again, you're
rather than art for art's sake.
But this goes to this idea that, that actually, if you look, if you said to a student, right, you want to do this course. Right, it's a creative media diploma. Are you a creative person? Yes. Are you interested in media? Yes. Right, well, what sort of stuff do you do? I make videos. Well, like what? I make skate videos. Right, what else do you do? I make I draw a web comic and I put a little comic sketch online. And I write songs. I post them there on my MySpace. Okay, so you say, well, right, okay. Let's have a look at them, and here's my little flash animation I made. Well, that's quite nice. There's something funny there. It's interesting. The graphics are quite playful. It seems to work together. It's coherent. Your video, your skate video, it just kind of seems to be randomly assortment of shots to a track that's probably the first thing you found on your iPod. Okay, there's I could critique that on certain levels. And
is this your interview technique?
Yeah, and this is your certain songs that you could. Here's your song. It's all right, but I can't hear it because you've recorded it in your bedroom and you haven't got a mic on your.
It's rather like this. You can't hear it because you're walking along a busy road. Yeah.
Does that make that student less creative? Because the things that they have, does the fact that they've spent their summer 1 week deciding they're going to make a skate video, the next week drawing some pictures with their friend. And the week after that, producing a concert in their garden. Does that make them less creative because we can kind of find holes in the quality of the work that they produce?
No.
Or is the assumption that the work will get better? I'm just going to shout at that guy. He should be an island, shouldn't he? Yeah. And here's one of our students, Tom Bailey. But so you wouldn't say, but you would say that student is a creative individual.
Yeah.
You'd say. I think there's the assumption that the majority of the things that a student makes in media studies has to demonstrate, is used to illustrate their understanding of the conventions of a genre, right? As opposed to being something that would exist as a text that might circulate on its own.
Yeah.
Is an issue.
Yeah.
There isn't. Why should a media studies student be seen to be less creative or less? Are they less expressive? Is their music video less expressive than if they made a music video? Is Sam Taylor Woods, is that her name? Is her John Lennon biopic more expressive visually, more creative than, I don't know, Yellow Submarine or something, then what was, because she's a photographer rather than, someone you would say, it's come out of making
Yeah.
adverts.
No. I mean,
But
I think
you do say that, and you would say that about a medium.
Oops. I mean, I think you're right that the kind of work that we set is about demonstrating understanding of conventions within the A-level course. We would hope that the work kind of takes on a life of its own, particularly when it gets on YouTube, and particularly with A2 work, like the music videos, because they sometimes have.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, actually, however much we might say, right, we're creating this for an audience, we put it online, a few people watch it, we show it at the cinema, the whole group, the whole cohort of students watches it, etc. So it's reached a wider audience than, say, an essay would.
Yeah.
But in the end, that's nothing compared to what might happen even with a student making a video of his mate throwing up after a night at the pub and sticking it on YouTube. He might well reach a much wider audience simply because it's a funny video on YouTube.
Yeah.
However, I would still argue within the constraints, the heavy constraints of a course that says we want you to make a music magazine that actually looks like a music magazine should look, that on one level is more creative than the person taking random videos of their mate throwing up.
Yeah.
Which simply required them to have the camera on when it happened.
Now, if they then took a video, a montage of loads of shots of their mates throwing up,
and made then that would be different.
But like,
it's kind of authorial intention in a sense.
If you think about it, if A2 then is about students creating kind of standalone texts.
Well, I'm not saying it's about that, but I'm saying it's got more potential, perhaps.
If they have to make a music video, what's the print?
Well, I don't think that. I think the music video and a short film are the most likely to fulfil that. Most things are still a means to another end.
It's like, if you say to someone, right, I want you to make a magazine, a 4-page spread as if it's from the inside of a magazine, music magazine, right? Then all they can do is illustrate, for better or worse, their understanding of the conventions.
Yeah.
Play around with those conventions, disrupt them, subvert them to a greater or lesser extent. But if you said to them, right, I want you to make a 12-page download.
There's a lot more potential.
Then they can make then they can make something.
Yeah.
And if you can make something, and if what you can make can stand up on it's got legs, then the rest of the stuff can happen. If what you can make has to be propped up by a discussion about is this a film opening or is it a trailer?
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you actually were making a short film wouldn't fall into either of those. It might take bits of film opening or bits of a trailer, but it has to work as a kind of film opening.
Yeah.
A fanzine has to work. Will people want to buy this fanzine? Will people want to read it? It has to work off the top of its own head, rather than.
Yeah. Well, does the diploma solve that problem?
In what way?
Well, the things that students would make on the diploma, have they got more of an end in themselves as a kind of finished artefact for an audience than the feel of an exercise?
Yeah, to the extent that you ignore what's on the spec and what's expected of you. Correct, but then you get into this kind of the problem of the students making the thing.
Is of less value than their paperwork. Yeah.
And then the students making the thing and making the paperwork to go with it. And then you've got the idea that actually they would somehow see the documenting of their creative process as being part of the development of their creativity, which they don't.
No.
If it's about creating paperwork to show the stages they've gone through and hit their various learning objectives, blah blah blah, that's one thing. If it's about reflecting on their creative